Hey Gaming Trend, this is Mark. I'm here with Ryan, one of the designers of Disney Lorcana, the hottest game of Gen Con this year. So Ryan, if you, for the viewers that maybe live under a rock and haven't heard of Lorcana, can you give us just the 30-second pitch? What is Lorcana about?
Sure. So Lorcana is an all-new Disney trading card game where you take on the role of an Illumineer, and that is someone with the ability to use magic inks to summon glimmers of Disney characters off of the page, and then you go on a quest. And the first player to complete their quest wins the game. And as a trading card game, that means that you get to build your own deck out of your own collection, right? So if you want to put your favorite characters in there, if you want your favorite strategies, you choose how you play. Yeah, that's Disney Lorcana.
Cool. So I had a chance to demo the game right before the interview.
Awesome.
I had a blast. I was able to check out 2 of the starter decks. Tell me about when you're designing cards. One thing that's always fascinated me with card games is there's so many abilities, many different cards.
Yeah.
Do you look at, say, Mickey Mouse and then say, what abilities would go with Mickey Mouse, or do you design a cool card and then figure out what character goes with it?
It's a little bit of both, but mostly we're looking at the character, right? And we want to make sure that as much as possible, the character can feel like their character in the world, right? Their abilities, how they look on the card, all that stuff. Usually we start with that. We know it's going to be a character. There's actually 2 things we generally start with. One is the color of ink that the card is.
Okay.
So there's 6 colors of ink, and each color has its own personality, both in the theme and also mechanically, right? And so instantly that kind of narrows down, like, Ruby, for example, is all about daring. It's all about kind of striking in, but it also means they don't think things through very often, right? And so if I'm making a daring Mickey, I might make him a pirate, or something, or an explorer, or something like that, and give them. So it's kind of the cross between the character and the ink, the color of ink that was made, that was used to make them, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's 6 colors, colors of ink in the game right now. Is that how the game will be forever? Is there ever going to be?
I never say never, but I also don't talk about the future very much.
I understand.
But we like the 6 colors. I mean, that's the thing, when Steve and I sat down to design the game, once we had the game design done, and that was quite a process. It took like 6 months of basically throwing pasta on the wall, seeing if it stuck. Most of it didn't. And about 5.5 months later, we started really crystallizing what became Disney Lorcana, right? Once you do that, then you do this fun thing where you get to like figure out all the different things that cards can do within the world of this system, right? And you just brainstorm, and then you take that list and you divide it up into the inks, based on the ink's thematic kind of personality. So if we have abilities, for Ruby, as I mentioned before, is daring. An ability like Rush, and Rush is the ability that lets the character challenge the turn you put it into play, where most characters can't do that, right? Well, that feels very daring, doesn't it? You come right out into play and you swing right in, and challenge another player. And so we try to match up the mechanics to the ink color, and that gives us kind of a blueprint that we ended up using, as I mentioned before. When we have a Mickey who's Ruby, what can we do within the Ruby color that still feels like Mickey, right?
Right. Yeah, it's really fun. When I was playing the game earlier, the theme that goes into the different colors that you've been talking about. So you can really tell when you're playing, one color or another, the deck feels like it goes together.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out that way, because that's exactly what we want. I really want theme and story to really come through, especially in the gameplay, right? There's a couple of cards that I really enjoy for that. Some of my favorite cards in the set really are my favorite because of the story, right? There's and my absolute favorite in this regard is Grammatala. Now, she is the grandmother from Moana, and spoiler alert, she passes away in Moana. Okay, so I just want to, but then she comes back and helps. Her spirit kind of comes back and helps Moana. So when we design the card, Grammatala, if she's banished from play, instead of going to the discard pile, she becomes an ink for you. She becomes a resource for you, and so she's always with you, right? She's always helping you. And so it's always nice, and we can't always do it, but it's always nice when the mechanics of a card tell the story of the character as well, right? We do that as much as we can, but sometimes you need cards that just draw you 2 cards, or cards that deal damage, or something like that. But for the most part, we start from the character and design there.
Yeah. So speaking of mechanics, one of the kind of mechanical design choices that was new to me in a kind of trading card game that I thought was really cool is the you can quest, you can challenge, that exhausts your card. But if I don't do that and my card's not exhausted, then you can't do anything to me.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Is that something that you kind of came up with early on? That's
a dynamic that I've always enjoyed. It's not new to Lorcana. There are other games that have that similar dynamic. What I like about it for Lorcana is it's very thematic, right? So basically, if I don't do anything with a character, it's what we call ready. It's just sitting there on the table, and then we exert it, turning it sideways, and that once it's exerted, though, it's vulnerable to being challenged, right?
Yeah.
What I like about that thematically is when you send him on a quest, that character's out in the world, and now they're vulnerable to being challenged by another character. So I think it fit really well with the theme of kind of any adventure. Every adventure has its obstacles, has its challenges, and its dangers. And I think that mechanic really fits that very well. And so that's something that, as we were designing the game, we wanted to make sure it had that kind of feeling of like risk. I don't know what's going to happen when this person goes on a quest, this character goes on a quest, right? And I think that really comes through in that mechanic. It's also one of the most strategic parts of the game, like when to quest and when to challenge. Is really a big strategic choice, right? Because if you quest too much, then your opponent is going to start doing their thing, and you really got to pay attention to what they're doing, because if they are able to kind of unchecked summon a lot of glimmers, you could be in trouble. And so knowing when to turn that corner and go, you know what, actually I need to start challenging you and your characters is one of the bigger parts of the strategy.
Yes, I noticed that a lot. Exactly like you said, should I build up a lot of characters so I can get a lot of glimmers at once, or should I try and take you out? Also, the more powerful characters cost a lot to put out, but then a lot of them also can be inked. So if you have that in your hand at the beginning, do I ink this so that I can play cards later? Do I try and hold on to it?
That's another part of the game design itself that I feel is very strategic, is which card to put down in ink. That's actually a very skill testing choice, right? Because what you're doing is you're kind of looking at your hand and you're looking at the table and you're going, okay, which of these cards is least useful to me right now? And that's the one I'm going to use as ink. Now that mechanic is also not new to Lorcana, but I think the twist that we put on it that I really enjoy is that some cards can never be placed down there, right? And that is really interesting from a game design standpoint, because it allows us, it's another knob we can turn on designing the card and balancing it, right? If we take the ink off, that really changes that evaluation that a player will have if they want to add it to their deck, because you can't put too many of those in your deck, right? Too many of those cards, then you could find yourself a bit stymied when it comes to ink. But it also lets us do something I just find fascinating. I'm a bit of a nerd about this, I know, but like when you're designing a trading card game, you want to make sure there's these deck archetypes out there. And almost, but not quite, but it's almost a rock, paper, scissors thing. This deck beats that one, but that one beats this one. And you want that, right? Because ideally, there are a bunch of viable decks out there, right? That people feel they can be competitive or they can win a lot. If there's too few of those, the game can get really dull, right? So by taking the ink off, some of those archetypes aren't as fun. So Control is a good example. Control is a type of deck that lets you really affect your opponent's cards a lot, or keep them from playing, or things like that. It's not very fun to play against, but it's kind of one of the important archetypes because it kind of keeps some other types in check. But since we don't want too much of it, we can pull the ink off of a lot of those control cards, right? And make sure that if you stuff your deck with a bunch of these control cards, you're going to have a hard time with your ink production, right?
Right. So on the topic of these deck archetypes, so there's a number of starter boxes at the beginning. Each starter box has its deck archetype. Is there a goal for the kind of number of archetypes you're going to have? How many different sort of play styles people can expect to explore? Kind of.
Sure. Yeah, I mean the goal kind of is as many as possible, right? Like we want I think you need at least 3 different viable decks, and I wouldn't consider the starter decks actually in this realm, because the job of the starter deck is really to help people get going, and learn the game, and they also are meant to be played against each other and have that fun experience and sort of thing. But I think a healthy environment has at least 3 decks. I think we've got more than that, though. I think we've got, Steve Warner is not only the co-designer of the game, but he runs the team that designs the cards and then develops them, play tests them, and tweaks them and all that other stuff. And he's one of the best in the business at that. And he has made sure, I think, there's a lot of fun decks to find. I think trading card gamers especially are really going to be, I think, pleasantly surprised at like the amount of combos and synergies and decks that they can find in the game.
Yeah, just when I played earlier, one of the combos that just made me smile is you could get Aladdin, and then if you play the Scimitar with Aladdin, he gets an extra bonus that other people don't get.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot of fun.
The theme is just really rich already.
We wanted to sprinkle that in. I like those kind of abilities. Like there's a Tinkerbell that is helpful, but more helpful if she's helping Peter Pan, right?
Right.
And those are fun for a lot of reasons. I think the thematic thing is fun, but also I think, especially for new players, it kind of helps them like, oh, I want these two cards together. Like I'm reading the story of these cards, I'm like, oh, I'm going to put them in my deck, right? We've got a lot of the pirates from Peter Pan who are better if you have a captain, right? Like
right.
That sort of thing. And just fun stuff like that. I just really enjoy that. We have a really fun set of abilities that affect princesses, and so if you want to make a princess deck, there's a lot of different cards out there that will help your princesses and all that stuff, and that's super fun.
That's fun. The other one I liked was Jetsam and Flotsam.
Yeah.
They each have different abilities, but if you play both, they give each other their abilities.
Yeah.
So,
that was fun.
Just really fun combos.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun with that. It was, I tell you, coming up with which characters to use and then really trying to maximize their thematic, punch was just a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, with so many Disney characters to choose from, because obviously the Disney property is enormous.
There's a lot.
I know, and just the one starter deck I played, I had Street Rat Aladdin,
Yeah.
and I had Prince Ali Aladdin.
Yeah.
You could just see the potential for different versions of all the
Oh,
characters.
it's so fun. Because, basically you watch the movies, and one of the most delightful part of this project, I've seen the movies so much more,
Yes.
because you can just watch a movie and go, ooh, that's a card, ooh, that's a card, ooh, that's a card, right? And you just write all this stuff down, and you just have this huge list of ideas, and it's just so much fun, yeah.
So one of the card types is songs.
Oh, yeah.
Which
songs.
Disney song got stuck in your head the most designing
Let's
and playing this
see.
game?
One step ahead of the red line, one swing ahead of the sword. It's a great song. I love that song. I think my favorite use of a song card, though, is Let It Go, because the card itself, you can pick a character out there and turn it into ink, and usually you'll do that to your opponent's like best character. You're like, oh, and it's just fun to say, let it go, as they have to let go of their character.
Their hopes.
Yeah, exactly.
Fade to the
It's
disco
so
pile.
much fun. I love doing that. And song cards in general, they're so fun. It goes back to that thematic design, right? Like not only are they just a card type, but you can actually have your character sing the song for you. And that little, it's actually fairly strategic, because if you have the character sing it, well, you don't have to spend the ink on it. Right? And so there's times when it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and have a character sing it, but it's also almost impossible not to sing the song when you play the card.
Yes.
And so any room full of Lorcana players, you're just going to hear random bits of Disney songs, and it just is delightful. I just love that.
Yeah, that's really fun. Really fun. So obviously it's a trading card game. There's clearly the competitive aspects, and the gameplay is really strong in the game. But for people that just want to collect the cards, is there any thought put into that?
Absolutely.
As well?
If people just want to collect this game, that is awesome. It's a fun game to collect. I would like it if they tried to play the game. That would be great, but I don't think that. If you're just enjoying collecting, that's great. Collecting is fun. Finding the different cards, finding all your favorite from a given movie, perhaps, or something like that, or collecting a full set. But we wanted to make sure that collecting was a lot of fun, and so we did a couple of things for that. And one of them is we're doing all the cards in a foil version. So every pack, one of the cards in there will be a random foil that is just a random card from the entire set. And so if you really work at it, you can collect an entire set of foils, or your whole deck could be foil. And that's a lot of fun. And that's what I like about collecting, is if it's optional, right? If it's like a side quest, right? I can be like, oh, if I want the foils, I can. And so we really took that to heart with our promo cards, for example. We want to never do a promo card that you can only get that character in that gameplay from a specific place. You'll always be able to get that character or gameplay from the booster packs. You just won't have the cool Gen Con thing at the bottom, or the cool treatment if it might have that. But that gives you these fun side quests where if you want to collect all the all the promo cards, something like that, that can be a quest that you can go on and find people and trade and that sort of thing.
That's fun. And I see, so on the table here, we've got this Stitch card binder, so you can keep your collection nice and safe in your Lorcana themed binder.
Yeah,
so
this one's pretty fun. Yeah, this one too. We got some cards that have some really fun art, and the art has just been so delightful. We started working on this game pretty much the same time the art team, the creative team, started working with artists and getting art in. So it was still a few months after we started that we started to actually see the art, and it's just been amazing.
So the art is all original, new art for this game?
All original, all new art. Over 200 pieces of art in every set.
Wow.
So we're doing more new Disney art than any single product in the history of Disney.
That's incredible.
It's so cool. I mean, it's just so much attention to detail and love this movie. And I think the whole product, those two terms really apply. There's a lot of love and attention to detail because we love these characters too. And, we love the fact that we get to work with them and have these, it's just so much fun, right? But there's some fun details, I gotta say, like one of my favorite pieces, we have a giant Tinkerbell, is one of the glimmers that we have. And there's the enchanted version of her, which is this alternate art, highly collectible version that you can find in some of the packs. And if you look really close, she's holding Captain Hook's ship. That's how big she is. She's holding Captain Hook's ship. Cool. But if you look really closely, you can see Captain Hook, little tiny Captain Hook, just pointing his sword at her. And I just love details like that. It's super fun. And there's lots of stuff like that to find, right? It's just, so we just wanted to just infuse everything we could about this product with that love and that fun and whimsy and attention to detail. And I really think there's a lot of stuff out there to find.
So in terms of collecting and playing the game, card rarity, is there multiple levels of rarity?
Yeah, there's actually 5. And on the bottom of every card, you'll see a symbol that will kind of tell you what rarity it is. But it goes from common, uncommon, rare, super rare, legendary, and then there's this 6th one we're calling enchanted. And it's kind of a new rarity, kind of not, because the enchanted cards are not unique mechanics.
Okay.
They are alternate art and alternate treatment versions of cards that are in that set. So we pick a card that we thought was awesome, like Giant Tinkerbell, and then we did a new version of her with beautiful art that goes all the way to the edge of the card. That's brand new. It's different than the one on the other card, and then a foil treatment that is also different than the foils you get. So we just, you were talking about collecting this game. That was one of the things we wanted to do to kind of really say, man, this is a really fun game to collect. And if you want to try to find all the enchanted, that's a really hard but really cool quest you can go on.
I'm sure it'll be done.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be this weekend, probably. Actually,
probably. Yeah. So the Disney property, obviously, enormous appeal.
So many
adults love Disney, children love
Disney.
Yeah. So I'm excited to play this game. I'm pretty sure I can get my wife, who doesn't play games, to play this game.
I love that
because of the Disney theme.
Yeah.
So when you're designing mechanics for a game that has such wide appeal, how do you, I guess, keep yourself from making it too complex with your combos and interactions? That you still keep that wide appeal and everybody can enjoy.
We had this word we used a lot, welcoming. Like that, we really wanted to be a welcoming game. And actually, trading card games do this fairly well. And the reason is you have like the rule set, and it's like that's the frame of the house, and it's got to be sturdy and strong, but it's got to have the ability to hold a lot of stuff. And the stuff it's holding are like the cards, right? And so if your frame is really good, you can put a lot of great cards on it. But the frame itself can be simple, so the rules can be fairly accessible and welcoming, right? And the complexity actually comes in building your deck and choosing the cards, and then how you play. Like those things we spoke of, like when to quest, when to challenge, what cards to ink, that sort of thing. And so with new players, with which cards to ink, for example, they can just choose a card and put it down, and it's not a big deal. But they'll learn over time that more skill testing choice, right? And so our goal was at the beginning of your kind of journey with our game, you can just play your favorite characters and you can quest with them and gain points, and it's a lot of fun. But as you're playing, every time you can learn a little bit more and go, oh, okay, maybe I should have challenged at that point, or maybe I should have done this, maybe I should have done that. Let's try that again, right? So that was really one of our main kind of philosophies going into the game design itself. And then the card design, the other thing we do is that the lower rare cards tend to be the simpler cards. So when you open a pack and you fan the cards out, the majority of those cards should be on the simpler end, right?
Pretty straightforward to understand.
Straightforward cards, right? So the higher rarities we tend to reserve for the more complex cards, right? And that way you're just not getting flooded with a lot of those at the beginning. We didn't want to have a bunch of cards out with a bunch of paragraphs on them, right? Because that can be very, even for me, that's too much, right? And I've been doing this 25 years, right? So even for me, I'm like, okay, too many words. And so we felt that was really important for both card design and game design.
Okay. So for the competitive scene of this game, is there plans to do events, draft events?
Yeah, we've got plans. I can't really talk about specifics, but we've got a wonderful guy named John Grant who is our organized play manager, and he and I and our marketing team work very closely to kind of plan out what we've got going. We're starting with this grassroots kind of league system. By the way, we're just suggesting that to the stores. We're supporting it with OP kits that have foil cards for prizes and pins and other things for prizes. And we're recommending this really fun league system where you just win, you earn points by playing, not just by winning. You earn points for other reasons too, and at certain point levels you earn a foil card or a pin or a lore counter, things like that.
That's really cool.
But we're also telling stores like, hey, you know your players better than us. If you have a competitive scene, it's totally cool to use this stuff for tournaments and things like that. It's really up to you and how you want to run your store. But that's what we're doing at the beginning, because again, my hope is that Disney fans will come and check this game out and play it, and then maybe go to a store. You know, maybe, because I mean, hobby stores are amazing. I mean, they're just wonderful places. And so my true hope is that some people will come to a hobby store for the first time because of Lorcana, and then be just like, where has this been all my life, right? Like this amazing place, all these games, tables to sit down and play, right? These awesome things like that. And I really believe we stand a good chance of that, of bringing some new folks in.
I think if any game can do it, this game with the Disney appeal is the one that's going to have people walking in. So that's really cool. I can't stop looking at these.
That's okay.
They're so good. So building decks, going back to kind of the mechanics. So each deck is going to be 2 colors.
Yeah, so the deck building is an interesting approach when you're talking about game design, because you want, so the act of deck building, or even just thinking about decks, takes up, I mean, the amount of time a player uses on that is almost as much time as they'll play. So it's really a huge part of how they interact with the game, right? And so that means you want it to be fun. Right, you don't want to be too much of a chore. You don't want to be, too hard. And so, and especially for new players, we just want to say, if you want to play the princesses, put them together in a deck and play. Right. So to that end, we chose these rules that are, we feel, fairly simple. You pick 2 of the 6 colors, and those are the cards you can use. Those 2 colors. You have to have at least 60 cards in your deck, which is you get a 60 card in every starter deck, so you're good to go right off the bat. And you can't have more than 4 of any given card in the deck, right? And so that's it. Those are the rules, right? And so with those guidelines, you can make, there's a ton of decks you can make.
That's awesome. It's really interesting for me personally, the colors. But as you mentioned, if I want to build a princess deck, or if I want to focus on my favorite Disney animals, or
exactly.
Like I'm just really excited about Lion King.
You can do the Lion King deck. You can totally do that. Aladdin, I have a pirate deck that actually has some cards in it that aren't out yet, but I really enjoy playing my pirate deck because I like pirates. So
I'm a huge fan of Toy Story. It's my favorite Disney movie.
It's a great movie.
I'm the same age as Andy, so
nice.
Growing up, and then Andy goes off to college. I'm going off to college. A lot of emotions in that. So
it's great. It's great.
We can build a Toy Story deck. I don't know, is Toy Story in the game?
Well, no, not yet. Pixar's not part of the game, and we've got lots of plans for lots of stuff, but I can't really talk about future plans like that.
Yeah. Blink twice if you're going to put Awesome. Well, I know this has been the talk of Gen Con. There's thousands of people lined up every day just to check it out.
It's been so exciting. It's only day 2, and it's just been so exciting.
Yeah. So this is, this weekend is kind of the initial launch of the game.
This is more like a preview, because this is the first time people have been able to buy the product. And then it actually launches in hobby stores on the 18th, and you'll also see it in the park stores, which I'm very excited about. Cool. I've been going to Disneyland since I was 5, and so we're actually, my wife and I and my son, we're going to fly down there on the 17th. We're going to go to the parks. It's going to be, I'm just going to take pictures next. That's awesome. This is my game. People are like, who's that guy? Who's that tall guy next to the cars? Be like, I don't care. I'm excited. Anyway, so we're giving it to the hobby exclusively for a couple of weeks. So only hobby stores are going to have it until September 1st. And then after that goes to the mass. Well, the hobby stores are where the community is born. It's where it's grown and cultivated. And we want to really hit that home. And also the hobby stores is where they're going to run the leagues and that sort of thing. And so we wanted to let them know that we see them as partners. Yeah,
we want people to come to the store, play in person, meet new people, and really build
that. To me, the community is just the best part of any game. I think is just being able to find new players, people who have the same fascinations and interests, and you can sit down and play a game with them. I think that's one of the magical things of tabletop gaming in general, is bringing people together, sitting down and making memories.
Yeah, and I think you've found something that almost everybody knows about and can bond over in that kind of shared tabletop.
Yeah, Disney is amazing for that. And it's just, one of the things I love about opening packs, for example, is that even if you don't know the game, just thumbing through the packs, it's just the characters and the art is just such a delight. And I love watching people, in fact, I want to see you open a pack.
Oh,
and goodness. But it's just so much fun to open packs and thumb through the characters. And so.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, the stakes could not be lower. So.
I have to open a pack on camera. Here we go.
There we go. All right, you've got the ultra rare QR code card there. It's in every pack.
Probably not bend any.
Now, right below that card is going to be the foil, and then the most rare card. So if you want to really like,
Right below this is the
this
foil.
is the most. That's a foil, and these are the most rare. So if you really want to like drama, you'd flip it over right now and just go one card. So there's Yzma right there. Very cool. That's my wife's favorite movie, by the way.
I've got a stolen scimitar. So this is the
one you were talking about. Yeah,
I was talking about.
It's good, but better if you've got an Aladdin. Yeah.
Aurora. This is my daughter's favorite princess.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, Tangled.
Tangled. One of my favorite movies.
Stitch. I love Stitch. We had a fan the other day. He did an impeccable Stitch voice. It was just so good. I'm like, oh man, that's amazing.
I'm not going to attempt that one.
Me neither. Me neither.
Captain Hook.
Oh yeah, that one's cool because he's a Dreamborn as a duelist. So his hook is instead of a hook, he's got a blade.
Oh yeah.
And he's also trapped a fairy in his lantern to use as a candle.
Well, that's not
some
nice.
fun. That's what I'm talking about, like the little details, though, right? Like the little. It's not nice, but he's Captain Hook. Like, what do you expect?
Three Musketeer Goofy.
Oh, nice.
Love that movie.
Oh yeah.
Musketeer Donald Duck.
Oh wow! I can't believe that. Back to back Musketeers. If you get Mickey Mouse, this is gonna be
Rapunzel. Okay.
All right.
Maurice.
Oh, that's one of your rares. You get 2 rares per pack.
Marshmallow. Both of my daughter and my son run around yelling at each other. Don't come back.
Don't come back.
That's
some of the things you're talking about.
cool.
Like, there's so much Disney in our lives, right? Like, it just touches people in a way that's really cool. And yeah, every kid's like, don't come back.
Don't come back. Love that.
Love that.
All right. Oh, we've got
the
foiled
foil.
magic mirror.
Oh, that's how cool is that? Yeah.
Well, I am the fairest one of all. So.
It's true. It's true.
Wow.
And then that's the on one side is the QR code that'll take you to the app. The other side is 1/4 of a piece of concept art for the brave little tailor.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So there's multiple pieces of art that you can
Yeah,
kind of
there's four. There's only one. It's only brave little tailor, but there's 4 different pieces of it. Yeah,
that's very cool.
Kind of a fun little Easter egg in the packs there. So
That's
there you go.
so
See,
cool.
it's fun opening packs. It's so fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me.
Really excited about Disney Lorcana. If you haven't checked it out yet, you have to check out this game.
Thank you.
If you leave us with one final thing, your favorite thing about the game, if you can condense it.
I've already told you. My favorite thing is when people sing the songs when they play the card. It is awesome.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
Super fun. All right. Well, we're not going to close out singing a song together, but thank you so much for talking to us. Appreciate it. Yeah.